Hey, what's up guys, Meshan here, come back with a brand new video for you guys. Today we're going to be talking about Chinese New Year, the very big holiday for CSGO, or at least that's what it's set up to be at this point. Now we're going to be talking about everything to do with it, what kind of profit potentially you should be expecting to see, and everything that really goes on within Chinese New Year that's going to be affecting the CSGO market. Before we hop on into this one though, if you guys are looking to pick up any CSGO skins, I've got a couple links down in the description, and let's hop on into it. First up here, let's talk about Chinese New Year itself. Now Chinese New Year is set to start, depending on where you're looking, it's generally starting on February 1st. Now this is also slightly different because there's actually a public holiday from January 31st to February 6th. So in that range is generally where we're going to end up seeing a lot of these predictions placed. Most likely though, you're going to see February 1st is the actual date it's starting. Now it's not usually during those days because those days are filled with celebration, but afterwards we usually see a lot of money entering in the CSGO market. Lots of the player base in China is in that age range where they're probably going to be receiving a lot of money through their red envelopes. Now, if there's one thing we know, the Chinese population loves their cases, and they're probably going to be unboxing quite a few after this time period has passed. Now, I'm going to give them roughly a week and say that first week there, we shouldn't expect to see a ton of growth since these people are primarily going to be focused on the actual Chinese New Year that's happening. After that though, it's completely fair game, and I think we're probably going to see some investment hype during the Chinese New Year as well, but I don't think that's going to be actually directly from the Chinese player base. I think what we're seeing is the Chinese New Year here is becoming a very popular event outside of China. People are looking at it and thinking that their prices are just instantly going to rise because of what's going on there, where in fact most of this money that's entering the market is probably going to be going to unboxing cases and unboxing a lot of the new items that weren't there last year. One of which is the Riptide case. Now I am personally picking up more of the Riptide case as I think it has a lot of potential moving forward. As we get closer to the end of Riptide here, which is less than a month away from the perceived date that Riptide is going to end, I think we're going to see the Riptide case start to heat up a little bit in price. Right now we're sitting at roughly that 50-cent mark, but I could definitely see it going up slightly depending on where these Chinese dollars are going to. If we look at the clutch case from last year, we can see a combination of the two in my eyes. I think the clutch case last year was definitely a popular case for these Chinese player base to open. I think it's definitely one of the better looking cases that isn't too expensive, and for the price point they were looking at of roughly like 10 to 15 cents at that time, it was definitely a good option. However, what we saw afterwards was the price steadily increasing for about a 2-week period where the case almost tripled in price. Now the obvious answer of what happened here was Chinese New Year. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that Chinese New Year actually caused this. Unfortunately, we can't really tell if it was Chinese New Year that caused this or if it was the hype surrounding Chinese New Year that caused this. Chinese New Year is something that's definitely blown out of proportion for what it is when you're looking at some of these similar YouTubers comparing it to a lot of easy profit, where it's not really easy profit. There's a lot of money entering the scene, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your items are going to rise in price. Now, when we go in the past, it's pretty easy to see where Chinese New Year has played an impact. Looking at the Spectrum 2 case in 2020, we can see this case double in price, going from 3 to 6 cents here. But you can see at the end, it just slowly kind of goes back down to the price point it was at 3 cents. Now this is pretty much directly from the Chinese New Year. No one was buying an absolute crazy amount of these for an investment purpose during this time. It just wouldn't make sense for them to buy them at that 6-cent price point if they were doing it for investment purposes. This case was 3 cents for the months prior, and it was 3 cents months after this event, meaning that almost 100% certainty you can kind of say that this was caused by the Chinese New Year and the crazy amounts of money entering the market there being used on cases. When we head back to the clutch case graph though, we're actually going to see something really interesting. We're going to see that price point fall slightly when Chinese New Year is actually undergoing. Now this is very interesting because this is quite the opposite of what we expect to see, and then after that we see a lot of massive profit there. Now this could potentially be a good buying time if you're looking to get in on some things that are heavily demanded and that are really commonly traded. One of which was the clutch case last year. The clutch case was the one that everyone was expecting to go into the rare drop pool. Obviously we can see now that Dreams and Nightmares pushed out the danger zone instead, but it's very interesting and it could potentially be a really good buying time if you're looking to get in on something and just kind of ride it for the hype there. Now this is not necessarily going to be the best buying time. Obviously now might be the best buying time, 20 weeks ago might have been the best buying time, but it could be a good time for that time period. Now, I've talked a lot of back and forth about the Chinese New Year. I think there's definitely a lot of money that's going to be entering the scene. However, I don't think there's going to be a ton of profit like people are expecting. I think we're going to see some things like the glove case, which has a relatively low amount listed on the market, that's probably going to end up moving just because there's so few out there and there's going to be so much money entering the scene. However, I feel like the most money is going to be put towards these prime cases. They like new things. The Chinese and everyone likes to unbox the brand new cases, and when we look at the cases that are pretty much the newest, almost all of them except Riptide are going to be relatively cheap. Now the Dreams and Nightmares is still going to be a bit expensive, but that's because it just came out. Personally, that's why I'm going into Riptide, because all the other cases, you're just going to see the gains that the case does just absolutely fade away because the case just doesn't have the demand ready for it to take off that 3 cent or 5 cent or 6 cent price point, whatever it is at. It just doesn't have the demand other than the Chinese New Year to be lifted off that price point. And I think that's what a lot of people are overlooking here, is that the majority of the money entering the scene, at least in my eyes, is going to be going towards these active drop pool cases, and therefore you're not going to be making much profit off those. Overall though, when we're looking at the case market as a whole, I think there's definitely going to see some increases in price. I don't think it's out of the question for all the prices to go up. However, I think it's definitely going to be overstated by some certain people in the community, claiming that you're going to be able to 100% profit off what's going on here. People are just going to be very disappointed when they learn that they're not going to be making an insane amount of profit off this event, and rather that these are just a lot of people looking to unbox cases during this time. With all that being said though, I think there's definitely a lot of profit out there with the Chinese New Year. It's just going to be in the wrong places of where you want it to be. I think there's going to be a lot of these active drop cases that go up slightly in price, and if you're looking to get out of them, like potentially the clutch case because you just missed the opportunity of it going into the rare drop pool, it might not be a bad time for you to do so. But that is really all I have for today, guys. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.